Welcome to the Business of Travel, the official podcast of the Global Business Travel Association. I'm Debbie Iannaci, the head of communications, PR, and research for GBTA. And today's podcast will be discussing the ins and outs, but really most importantly, the impact of GBTA's Advanced Principles of Business Travel Management course. Now, this course is designed for both travel buyers who oversee a managed travel program, as well as suppliers offering travel-related products and services. And today, I'm excited to be here with Sandy Moring, Managing Director at Strategic Travel Solutions. Sandy has an extensive experience in the world of corporate travel, including a strong operational background, leadership roles and account management, commercial marketing, training, and really most recently, encouraging the next generation of in the industry via coaching. Welcome, Sandy, and thanks so much for joining us here to share your unique insights.
Thank you.
So, Sandy, tell us, how many years have you been a core instructor for this Advanced Principles course?
Well, actually, for almost 8 years now, so quite some time, having delivered the course in person and online.
Terrific. And how did you come to be an instructor for this course? And again, especially over that amount of time, what continues to motivate you to really lead and shape that learning experience for industry professionals?
Well, I've always had a personal interest in developing people. So whenever I was working in the corporate travel industry for large and small global organizations, those that were reporting into me, I took a great interest in actually developing them and giving them career opportunities. So when I actually left my last post at Global TMC, I moved to the UK chapter of GBTA, the Institute of Travel Management. And there I was appointed Director of Education and set about going from, I think there were about 4 events in a year to putting in 20. And it was all about education, sharing best practice. And that's how I got involved in working with GBTA to start delivering the courses across Europe for both the fundamentals and the advanced principles of business travel management.
Well, that's terrific. And we're so glad on behalf of our members that you bring your expertise and acumen to this very important education program. So for our listeners who may not be as familiar with the Advanced Principles of Business Travel Management course, can you explain a little bit about it?
Yes, it is an excellent course. It takes everybody through the next stage, obviously post the fundamentals course, but it's taking them through the next stage of how to be smarter in the way that they procure travel management, how to engage better between the buyers and suppliers, how the negotiation strategies and policy compliance and travel risk management, strategic sourcing, all of these areas that probably people are involved in, certainly from the buyer community. It's all the roles and responsibilities that they have, but it's teaching them how to be smarter and how to approach it with improved communication, with a complete plan of action that covers lots of things. So when you look at it, the content covers 4 core modules. You have travel policy compliance, you have category management, strategic sourcing and supply management, and the last 3 are module 2. Then the third one is travel risk management, and finally data strategy. And we all know how important it is to have data in our job function in order to know exactly that we're making decisions and recommendations based on actuals rather than gut reaction and hearsay.
Right. Yeah, that's even more critical, or we've seen that need in the last few years, for sure. So, Sandy, the course is in what's called a synchronous virtual format. I would love to hear, as I'm sure our listeners are, a little bit more about exactly what does that mean in terms of a format, and what does that also bring to the learning experience for participants?
So the synchronous virtual format works really well, and it's something that obviously has evolved over the years to deliver training to those who are further afield or unable to travel, and it just gives a great opportunity. Now, what it does mean is that we have a group in the course that are the class, and they all work with their cameras on so that we can see everybody on video content. And that way we can have interaction and conversation and reenact as if we were in the room. The room feeling is obviously different because we are all in our own buildings and offices, but it doesn't stop us actually being able to encourage really good interactive discussions. For myself as the facilitator, it's my job to ensure that everybody is engaged and actively participating in the course. And I will ask questions to people as if we were in the room. And I will encourage discussion across the groups. We also, not only do we have learning sessions where obviously I'm delivering the content, we have lots of breakouts for Q&A. Now, breakout for a Q&A will be as a group because we will be discussing what we've just learned. Then we also do interactive breakouts where actually I will predetermine who goes into which group based on their program, their size, where they're based in the world, so that you have a mixture within the group to maximize that learning experience for the participant. And we will give them challenges, case studies, and we'll work through that. And then what happens is they'll come back and report to the group, and actually then I will encourage further discussion in order to ensure that all the content and all the points that we want to discuss are brought out into the classroom experience, and everybody can benefit from listening to other people's stories. Because I think we all know, and certainly as a trainer, I know that I can teach somebody something, but if I give them a story that shows how that was put into practice, or how something worked, or if it didn't work, why it didn't work, and if we'd done it differently, how it would have improved, everybody remembers those stories, and then they learn the learnings and remember the learnings much better. So I think the virtual format actually is great, because before I was only teaching in local markets, whereas now I'm teaching on the global platform. And really that's what GBTA stands for, the global platform. And so we can bring people from lots of countries together and learn the idiosyncrasies, the ways of different travel programs and managers' ways of working around the world.
Wow, that really sounds like, again, for what you outline, a really tremendous approach that I think so many people are looking for, that connection and that discussion and that peer-to-peer understanding. So, and again, it extends the footprint of what can be done around the world. So that sounds like something that is so interesting to pursue. So now that we've talked a little bit about the how of the Advanced Principles course, let's dig a little bit into the what. Let's explore the course, maybe the course's key topics a little bit. So why don't we start first with the area around travel policy compliance. Can you talk a little bit about travel policies and how professionals are thinking about that now, and in developing and adapting policies they may already have?
I mean, travel policies have been around for a long time, and it's quite interesting because part of the discussion that we'll have about this topic is the policy that you have fit for purpose? How often is it reviewed? why are, how are you going to design your policy or redesign your policy based on what is happening now rather than what used to happen? And I think, we operate in a world where we've had the experience of the pandemic, and that probably had the biggest impact on travel policy going forward. Now, there are various stages that we will go through. So we're talking about designing. How do you think about actually implementing a travel policy? Are you getting the response that you want? Are the stakeholders engaged? Do they understand? Does the same policy work for everybody, or do we need to adapt it? And what are the challenges out there? What's stopping people? Why do some people only kind of apply themselves to the bits that they want and they leave out the other areas that they think don't apply to them? Well, is it that it doesn't suit the business as well? Is it holding them back? Because a travel policy should support a business. It shouldn't hold the travellers back from doing the job that they've been sent to do. So we need to analyse, and this is what we do. We look at why are people unable to follow it? What can we do to change their attitude? Is it a personal thing, or is it something that needs to be looked at company level? And by looking at the compliance activity, such as trends, and we can look at the strategies and maybe the future threats that are coming that we need to address. And there may be technical threats, they may be geographical threats, geopolitical threats, all of those things. For example, the changes in access to countries, us ourselves, post-Brexit, that's changed a lot of things for travellers travelling to and from the UK. And then we would look very carefully at the technology tools that are available in the market in order to monitor and manage compliance, because actually we can make it easier for the travellers to follow best practice if we guide them in the right direction. And as with any module, when we go through this, we encourage people to talk about what their policy is, how it fits. We will often find that there is a discussion taking place between the participants about sharing what they've done in order to address things. And again, it's just that group discussion is, really, really beneficial to everybody in the virtual room.
Right. And Sandy, as I'm sitting here listening to you outline that, I'm thinking about all the participants that you've had access to through all the coursework, and especially in the last few recent years. Is there any one item, or let's call it even a pain point, that keeps rising to the top, or is kind of the number one item that you hear from participants when it comes to the topic of travel policy compliance?
Usually there is, and it's how do you get people to comply? And what I have found over the years is that you have to accept and understand that each company that we work for and deal with, and equally at the moment, I've just been talking mainly about the travel buyers, but equally for the travel suppliers and knowing where their product could or could not fit in, you have to understand that the culture of a company and its corporate identity is really, really influential on the travel policy success rate. If a travel policy is written too strictly in a fairly relaxed, cultured organization, it's just going to jar with everybody and it's not going to be right. So immediately you're going to have people that are going to fight against it, and it's not happening. If you are advocating a environment which is more relaxed, which is encouraging individuals to make their own decisions and the right decisions, you would write your policy differently. Now, you may write a very similar policy to the one that you had before, but you would change the terminology and the vocabulary that you use to change the tone of voice that it's delivered in. So you may have a travel manager who's working in one company and has honed down to their view, and it works really successfully, a travel policy that is absolutely perfect for that environment. And then they may change jobs, they move to another company, and they think, well, it worked there, so it'll work here. If the culture's not the same, it won't. And I think one of the other things with a travel policy is it evolves. And the best thing that people can do, and we recommend this and it's discussed, is that it needs to be not created and then put in a drawer. It needs to be a living policy. And this is where people are seeing that actually it's something they need to review at least on a 6-monthly basis. And they also need to review it if anything major changes in the industry. And that, I think, has been probably the biggest common theme that has come out that we address and successfully, give information on and encouragement to improve.
Right. And really navigating, and this might be something that we've especially seen in the last few years, of navigating that, finding that intersection between culture, company, people, and policy is quite a dimensional undertaking and tailored, as you say. So it's tremendous topic to be covering amongst, again, both suppliers and buyers. So let's actually look at another area that we know that industry professionals are always looking at, and again, no time like the present as well. But let's take a look at the travel risk management aspects of the course, and how risk management, has always been, but maybe even now is a top concern in the business travel landscape. How does the course address this topic, and how does it kind of equip professionals to really take on the changes and the realities of risk management today?
Risk management is either the top or the second top subject that most travel managers vote as their top concern year on year. And I've been around long enough to know that 8 years ago when I started delivering this course, it was hardly discussed at all. It has changed massively in the world of travel, and I think we all know why, and that's fine, because there are strategies in order to mitigate risk, and those are the points that we go through in this module. So we do touch we do cover off the subject as in at a very top level in the fundamentals course, but actually we for those who haven't done the fundamentals course, we will do a brief what is travel risk management and what does it cover, what are the implications. There are usually, I ask people in still call it the classroom. I ask them in the classroom how many people are responsible for travel risk management. Usually about 50% will put their hand up. And at that point, I say to them, how qualified are you to do that? Because there are legal implications. Are you aware of that? At that point, they usually lose some color in their face and think, goodness me, I need to know more about this. And this is what we do. So we make it very clear what are the responsibilities of the travel managers and the suppliers, because it's not just applying to corporate programs, it applies to anybody, any management structure that is responsible for sending people traveling. So we look at what is travel risk management and why every organization needs a program. We talk about whether the program should be integrated into the travel policy. Some companies do, some companies don't. We look at how they should, if they're not integrated, they should be truly aligned. And that will often also align with the expenses policy, because, of course, it costs to do certain things to avoid risk in the travel situation. Now, the Travel Risk Committee, the GBTA Travel Risk Committee, a few years ago created a formula which is called the 5 Pillars of Travel Risk Management. And it is a very good outline. And we go through each of the 5 pillars through the process of how travel risk management should be addressed. And we will give exact indication as to how a program should be structured, what you need to do, what training needs to be done either by yourself or to the travellers, how you communicate to them, and it goes way beyond just the traveller reporting, the travel trip reporting that we have probably relied on for many years to be the only kind of thing to tick the travel risk management box. There is a whole new well, not so new now, but ISO 31030 is a new international standard that was brought out, as I say, from the basis of the 31,000, which is risk management for any industry, but 31,030 is actually specifically called travel risk management. And again, we will take people through that and educate them as to why it was done and the responsibilities that come from that. And we have done some more training on that. We also help the travel managers or whoever attends the course to complete the TRM measuring program maturity. And this is a tool that's on the GBTA website in the resources section, where they can go in, answer certain questions, and it will evaluate what level of their program they are. And they can be right down the bottom, from totally reactive, where they just respond and hope that they do the right job at the time, to the very top, where it's totally managed and it's all embedded within the organization. Management are responsible, they know what they're responsible for, and they give the time and effort and resources, and it's also tracked through data. So again, data comes forward and supports this area. And then we talk about who owns TRM across the organization, the different stakeholders, and what their interest is and why they've got that interest and how it needs to be addressed. And again, we would finish with group discussions and talk about situations that maybe they've been in. And what I encourage is them to talk about situations that they've been in, and then talk about actually why the end result was as it was, and how, if they had known more information that they now knew from attending the course, how that could have changed and improved. And most importantly, we're there to teach mitigation of risk in order to avoid it. So that's TRM, absolutely the hot topic.
Right. I can't imagine, because that's also the most, I want to say, uncontrollable topic, or you can anticipate it, but you can manage it, but we never know what's going to happen, from minute to minute in the world. So when we think about maybe just, let's go back within the last 5 years, are we seeing new types of travel risk rising to the top? We also have different, workforce situations. We have a pandemic behind us. We have people working from home. Is there anything kind of new or different that you're addressing in this course that might, I don't want to say surprise participants, but something that's really front and center now, most recently?
Yes, and ironically, it also kind of sits quite nicely with the travel policy approach, which is those that were the road warriors pre the pandemic were obviously taken off the road, as we all were, are now going back on it, and they're not as confident as they used to be, because of maybe medical situations that they have or went through, or they've lost that kind of way. But historically, and this is the interesting thing, and it'll happen again, because the road warriors will reappear and so forth. But it's something we've always learned, is that the road warriors sometimes, even though they're the most experienced travelers, are the ones that actually can put themselves at risk the most, because they'll take shortcuts because they've done it a million times before and it all worked out fine. But circumstances change, and they themselves, are in a different place psychologically, physically, potentially. And so they are the ones where you have to now almost invest as much time as you would to the newbie travelers the ones that are nervous, the ones that are inexperienced and need their hand holding in order to know it, right down to how to behave on a business trip, so that they feel more confident. So it actually works at both ends of the scale, that you need to kind of think about these people and their situation and where they're at now compared to where they were before.
That's a great observation. And as you're sitting here explaining the road warriors, I'm like, I've done that. I've just assumed, or that I knew the way things work and how things should be handled. So, and especially in our industry, not only are we business travelers, but we're business travel industry professionals. That's kind of a double-sided sword there, where we think we know the inside and how to navigate the world. But and actually, speaking about kind of both ends of the spectrum, when we're thinking about the advanced principles of business travel management course, and some of our listeners today may be industry professionals considering taking the course. They may be veteran professionals. We have so many of those in our industry who have seen a lot. And we have new professionals just coming in, either starting their career or pivoting to this as a career. What would you say to them if they're either considering, or what advice would you have with them regarding the course and what it can bring for them and to them?
I would obviously encourage them to attend, and I base that on the fact that I've not had anybody in all the years that I've been delivering this course, and other trainers around the world, we never get told that was a waste of time, because by nothing else, we actually are addressing, and as you say, there are people who are new to travel. So maybe they fell into the role within their organization rather than they asked to do it. Very often, the person who makes the most number of bookings becomes the travel manager, but actually there's nothing, they've had no training on it. It's not something that actually they chose to do. It's all evolved into that role. And so what we want to do is not teach them the basics at this level, because it is advanced. What we want to do is say, right, let's build upon what you've already learnt. Let's actually now see whether you're getting the best out of a situation, because you've got more knowledge now. We will do a consultancy role whilst we're in the training, and if they've got problems, we will address it as trainers and help give ideas how to resolve and be smarter in the way that they work. And I think, once they have this greater understanding of all the elements, and I think for the suppliers, this is where the advanced principle course really makes a difference. Most of them see a little bit about what the buyer does from their meetings and engagement, but it's only what relates to what they're talking about with them and that product or that service. What the feedback from the suppliers has always been, goodness me, I never knew that there was so much that a travel manager had to cover off. Now I understand why they're so busy. Now I understand why when I go to see them, they need a succinct, productive meeting that is absolutely going to deliver what they need, rather than me having a little chit chat and kind of sharing, all and everything that they're just not interested in, and therefore they're not going to want me back through the door. So by creating this better understanding of each other's worlds, you will definitely, everybody involved will get more success. And I feel, if nothing else, my role is to make sure that that is achieved. There is greater understanding between the two parties, the two different areas of the industry. Each will get greater success out of it, because they'll engage better and closer. And it is all about, we talk about stakeholder management, but there's stakeholders in the business, outside the business. We just all need to understand and appreciate what it is that we're doing and how we're doing it. And I think if you are sitting on that fence, just do it. I promise you, you won't regret it. It'll be the best money you've spent.
Well, Sandy, that's what you've outlined for us today is tremendous. And as we're talking today, I've been thinking about the educational and the peer-to-peer aspects, but that halo effect of that understanding and that duality of participants and really everybody coming together is a great connection and a community point that we try to foster at GBTA as well. So. Well, we truly look forward, and I'm sure many of our participants are signing up now, I hope, but really to having you share all these insights on a future session and during the course. So thank you so much for joining us today, Sandy.
You're very welcome, Debbie. Thanks for inviting me. And I
Sure.
look forward to meeting new participants in the future.
Tremendous. And also to mention, that global travel professional holders can also earn 14 GTP recertification credits after completing the Advanced Principles course. And if you're interested in finding out more about the Advanced Principles course, you can follow the link you see here in the show notes for the podcast. And you can also find out about the course and other educational programs and offerings that GBTA has by visiting the professional development section on gbta.org. You've been listening to The Business of Travel, the official podcast of the Global Business Travel Association. For more information about GBTA and its work, visit gbta.org and be sure to rate and review us wherever you get your podcasts. Until next time, thanks for listening.